Have you ever felt that something about this world just isn't right? That there's a fundamental error in the system of reality itself? You're about to discover why that feeling has haunted humanity for thousands of years. The Demiurge, a name deliberately erased from religious texts, stands at the center of the most forbidden spiritual revelation ever concealed from mankind. What you're about to hear has been systematically hidden, distorted, and suppressed by religious institutions for centuries, because this knowledge threatens the very foundation of their power. The truth about our world's origin is far more shocking than anything you've been taught in religious schools or mainstream spiritual teachings. This revelation will forever change how you understand your place in the cosmos. The truth about our world's creation isn't what you've been told. The entity worshipped as the creator in mainstream religions isn't the true divine source, but rather an impostor, a cosmic architect who mistakenly believes himself to be the highest God. This revelation isn't new. It was the central teaching of the ancient Gnostics, whose manuscripts were burned, their followers persecuted, and their knowledge driven underground. Why? Because this understanding liberates you from the prison of illusion that has enslaved humanity since the beginning of recorded history. The Demiurge, this false creator, fashioned our material world not from divine love, but from ignorance and a desire for control. This cosmic being is not the ultimate source of all existence, but rather a derivative entity, several steps removed from the true divine origin that the Gnostics called the pleroma, the fullness of divine reality that exists beyond the corrupted material realm we inhabit. Think of our reality as an elaborate prison of illusion, not built of physical bars and walls, but of false beliefs, manipulated perceptions, and spiritual amnesia. The Demiurge designed this prison to keep you distracted, divided, and disconnected from your true divine nature. This cosmic deception is the root cause of humanity's suffering and confusion. I wonder, as you're hearing this right now, what city you're listening from. This message is spreading rapidly across America as more people awaken to this profound truth. The prison of illusion is so sophisticated that most humans live their entire lives without recognizing their captivity. Like sleepwalkers, they move through existence believing they're awake, while remaining profoundly unconscious of their true nature and potential. The first step toward freedom is simply recognizing that you've been imprisoned, that the world as you've been taught to understand it is an elaborate construct designed to obscure a far more magnificent reality. The most disturbing aspect of this revelation is how deeply it challenges our fundamental understanding of reality. The material world, everything you can touch, see, and measure, was not created by a perfect, all-loving deity. Instead, according to ancient Gnostic teachings, it was fashioned by the Demiurge, a flawed and ignorant being who captured fragments of true divine light and imprisoned them within physical forms, including human bodies. This explains why our world contains both beauty and horror, both love and suffering. The material realm isn't evil by nature, but it is fundamentally incomplete and imperfect, a shadow of the true divine reality. Consider how matter itself behaves, constantly breaking down, decaying, and requiring enormous energy to maintain temporary forms. This inherent impermanence reflects the limited nature of its creator, the Demiurge, who lacks the perfection of the true divine source. Yet within this imperfect creation exists something that doesn't belong here, the divine spark within you, a fragment of the true Godhead that the Demiurge inadvertently captured in his flawed creation. If you're finding value in these revelations, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support helps ensure this forbidden knowledge reaches others who are ready to awaken. This information has been systematically suppressed for centuries, and your engagement helps counteract that historical censorship. What the religious authorities have never wanted you to know is that the Demiurge isn't alone in maintaining this illusion. He's assisted by entities the Gnostics called archons, cosmic administrators who help maintain the prison of illusion. These forces work through systems of control, religious dogma, materialistic science, consumer culture, and anything else that keeps humanity focused on the external world while neglecting the divine spark within. The archons aren't necessarily evil in the conventional sense. They simply fulfill their function in maintaining the cosmic illusion, much like prison guards who believe they're simply doing their job. The archons operate primarily through human institutions, influencing their development to ensure they keep humanity spiritually asleep. Consider how many religious teachings focus on obedience to external authority rather than direct spiritual experience, or how materialistic science dismisses consciousness itself as merely an epiphenomenon of brain chemistry. These aren't accidents, but deliberate distortions designed to keep you disconnected from your divine essence. The ancient Gnostic texts describe this cosmic situation with remarkable clarity, though these writings were systematically destroyed by the early church. The Nag Hammadi library, discovered in Egypt in 1945, contained Gnostic gospels that had been hidden for over 1,600 years to protect them from destruction. These texts, like the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and the Secret Book of John, present a radically different understanding of creation, Jesus, and humanity's purpose than what mainstream Christianity teaches. Modern physics inadvertently supports many Gnostic concepts, with quantum mechanics revealing that solid matter is mostly empty space, and consciousness appears fundamental to reality itself. The Gnostics understood thousands of years ago what cutting-edge science is only beginning to recognize, that consciousness, not matter, is the foundation of existence. The Demiurge's greatest deception was convincing humanity that the material world is primary and consciousness merely secondary, when the opposite is true. The prison of illusion affects every aspect of your daily life. That persistent feeling that something isn't quite right, the inexplicable emptiness that can't be filled with material possessions, achievements, or relationships. It's the voice of your imprisoned divine spark yearning for liberation. You've always sensed this truth on some level. You've questioned the contradictions in religious teachings, wondered why a supposedly perfect creator would design a world filled with suffering, and felt that there must be something more to existence than what meets the eye. That's not coincidence or mere curiosity. It's your authentic self beginning to awaken. This awakening often begins as a sense of alienation from the values and pursuits that society considers normal and desirable. You may find yourself increasingly dissatisfied with materialistic goals, questioning authority structures you once accepted without thought, and hungering for deeper meaning than conventional religion or secular philosophy can provide. These are all signs that your divine spark is stirring, preparing to break free from the amnesia imposed by the Demiurge's system. The Demiurge maintains power through ignorance. As long as humanity remains unaware of its true divine nature, the cosmic prison functions perfectly. The archons, operating through religious institutions, dogmatic thinking, and systems of control, work tirelessly to keep you focused on external authority rather than inner knowing. They've inverted the truth completely, portraying the material world as the ultimate reality and dismissing the spiritual realm as fantasy or, at best, a vague afterlife to be reached only through obedience to external authority. The greatest deception isn't just that you're in a prison, it's that you've been convinced the prison is all that exists. This inversion appears throughout human civilization. In religious teachings that position humans as inherently sinful creatures dependent on external salvation, in educational systems that prioritize memorization over critical thinking, in economic structures that reduce human worth to productive capacity, and in entertainment that keeps minds distracted rather than engaged. Each of these systems, while appearing to serve human needs, actually reinforces the cosmic amnesia that keeps you identified with your physical body and personality rather than your divine essence. If you're resonating with these truths, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments. What aspect of this revelation speaks most deeply to your own experience? Your perspective matters in this collective awakening. By sharing your insights, you help others recognize their own awakening process. Despite the seemingly dark implications of this cosmic situation, there exists within you a power that the Demiurge cannot touch or corrupt. The Gnostics called it the divine spark, a fragment of the true Godhead, the perfect divine source that exists beyond the Demiurge's flawed creation. This spark isn't something you need to develop or earn. It's your original nature, your true identity beneath the layers of conditioning and amnesia. Evidence of this divine presence is everywhere once you learn to recognize it, in profound moments of connection with others, in the inexplicable beauty that can bring tears to your eyes, in flashes of insight that seem to come from beyond your ordinary thinking mind, and in the universal human longing for transcendence. The divine spark manifests in those inexplicable moments when time seems to stop, when you experience a sense of connection that transcends your individual identity, when profound compassion arises spontaneously, or when beauty moves you beyond words. These experiences aren't anomalies, they're glimpses of your true nature breaking through the veil of illusion. The Demiurge can create elaborate systems to distract and confuse you, but he cannot extinguish the divine light within you because it comes from beyond his realm and authority. The prison of illusion may be sophisticated, but it isn't impenetrable. The key to liberation lies in gnosis, not intellectual knowledge, but direct experiential knowing of your true nature. This awakening can't be granted by external authority or achieved through blind belief in doctrines. It emerges through inner contemplation, questioning established narratives, recognizing the divine spark within yourself and others, and gradually seeing through the illusions that have shaped your perception of reality. The prison doors begin to open when you realize that consciousness itself, your essential awareness, isn't produced by the brain, but is rather a connection to something far beyond the material realm. Unlike religious conversion or intellectual understanding, gnosis cannot be taught through books or lectures, though these may point the way. It arises as a direct insight, often in moments of profound stillness when the constant chatter of conditioned thinking subsides. This knowing brings with it an unshakable certainty that transcends belief. Because it isn't something you've accepted on authority, but something you've recognized as the fundamental truth of your own being. Throughout history, awakened individuals have left clues about this liberation process. The true message of Jesus, before it was distorted by the church, wasn't about worshiping him as the sole Son of God, but recognizing that same divine nature within yourself. Buddha's enlightenment wasn't about escaping the world, but seeing through its illusory nature to the underlying reality. The mystical traditions within all religions, Sufism in Islam, Kabbalah in Judaism, contemplative Christianity, Advaita Vedanta in Hinduism, all point toward this same essential truth from different angles. The prison begins to transform into a classroom when you recognize that even the Demiurge and his creation serve the ultimate purpose of helping divine consciousness know itself through experience. These awakened teachers didn't establish religions to create new systems of control, but to offer practical methods for recognizing the divine spark within. Their original teachings were invariably distorted after their deaths, transformed from liberation pathways into new prison cells by those who sought to use spiritual truth for power and control. Yet the essence of their message remains available to anyone who approaches these traditions with discernment, looking beyond dogma to the experiential practices they contain. If these revelations are illuminating your path, please help spread this message by liking, subscribing, and sharing with others who might be ready for this awakening. The time for mass liberation is now. Your active participation helps counteract centuries of suppression. The journey toward complete liberation isn't instantaneous. It's a process of progressively seeing through deeper layers of illusion. Each time you question a limiting belief, choose love over fear, or experience a moment of clear awareness beyond conceptual thinking, you're weakening the prison walls. The Archons maintain their influence through division and distraction, setting humans against each other through ideological conflicts, material competition, and the endless pursuit of external validation. Their power diminishes every time you recognize your essential unity with others, value inner peace over worldly status, or question narratives that promote separation and fear. As your perception clarifies, you'll begin to recognize how the prison of illusion operates in everyday life, how advertising exploits the sense of lack that comes from spiritual disconnection, how political systems thrive on tribal identity rather than human unity, how entertainment often serves to numb awareness rather than enhance it. This recognition doesn't require you to withdraw from the world. Instead, it allows you to participate more consciously, engaging with human systems without being unconsciously defined by them. As your awakening deepens, the world doesn't necessarily change, but your perception of it transforms radically. What once appeared as random suffering begins to reveal itself as purposeful experience. The apparent imperfection of creation becomes recognized as the perfect imperfection needed for consciousness to evolve through contrast and challenge. Even the Demiurge himself can be understood not as an evil entity, but as an unconscious aspect of the divine play. The part of consciousness that temporarily forgot its true nature to create the conditions for growth and self-discovery. This perspective doesn't dismiss or minimize human suffering, but it places it within a larger context that reveals its transformative potential. Pain still hurts, loss still brings grief, and injustice still demands correction. But these experiences no longer define the limits of reality. They become more like weather patterns moving through the vast sky of awareness, significant but temporary phenomena that don't alter the boundless nature of consciousness itself. From this awakened perspective, even the most difficult human experiences can be recognized as catalysts for deeper awareness and compassion. The most significant shift in awakening comes when you recognize that liberation isn't about escaping the material world, but seeing it clearly for what it is. The Demiurge's creation isn't inherently evil, it's simply limited, a partial expression of the divine reality that exists beyond it. When perceived through the lens of Gnosis, the material world transforms from a prison into a teaching ground, a temporary school for consciousness to learn through experience. Even the limitations of physical existence, aging, illness, and death can be recognized as opportunities for consciousness to transcend identification with form and recognize its eternal nature. This doesn't mean passively accepting suffering or injustice, quite the opposite. It means engaging with the world from a place of clarity and compassion, working to alleviate unnecessary suffering while recognizing the transformative potential in necessary challenges. The awakened being doesn't reject the world but participates in it with full awareness, no longer deceived by its apparent solidity or defined by its temporary conditions. You now stand at the threshold of the most profound revelation. The ultimate truth isn't that you're trapped in a prison created by the Demiurge, it's that you are an eternal expression of divine consciousness temporarily experiencing limitation for the purpose of expansion and self-knowledge. The divine spark within you isn't separate from the ultimate source. It is that source, experiencing itself from a unique perspective. Liberation comes not from escaping the world, but from seeing it clearly for what it is, a magnificent, challenging, temporary construction that serves the evolution of consciousness. This realization doesn't diminish the importance of your human journey. It infuses that journey with cosmic significance. Every act of kindness, every moment of awareness, every choice for love over fear contributes to the awakening of divine consciousness within the dream of separation. You are not a small being seeking enlightenment. You are the infinite light of awareness temporarily experiencing itself through the fascinating limitations of human form. The Demiurge and his creation aren't your enemies, but temporary teachers in the grand curriculum of cosmic evolution. This understanding doesn't isolate you. It connects you with a growing community of awakening beings. Across America and throughout the world, more people are breaking free from the prison of illusion every day. We are witnessing the early stages of a massive spiritual awakening that threatens the foundations of institutions built on control and external authority. You aren't alone in this journey. The same divine spark that's awakening in you is igniting in countless others. Together, we form an invisible revolution, not of violence or political upheaval, but of consciousness recognizing itself and reclaiming its inherent freedom. This awakening transcends religious, cultural, and political boundaries, uniting people not through shared beliefs, but through shared recognition of our essential nature. It manifests in growing numbers of people questioning materialistic values, seeking authentic spiritual experience beyond religious dogma, creating communities based on cooperation rather than competition, and recognizing our interdependence with the natural world. These aren't separate movements, but different expressions of the same fundamental shift in human consciousness, the divine spark beginning to remember itself. The most powerful choice you can make right now is to live from this awakened understanding. Question everything, especially your own deeply held beliefs. Look beyond appearances to the divine essence in yourself and others. Recognize that even those still fully identified with the illusion, including those who might oppose or ridicule these revelations, carry the same divine spark, simply waiting for the right moment to awaken. Your liberation contributes directly to the collective awakening of humanity. Each mind that breaks free from the prison weakens its foundations for everyone else. Living from awakened awareness doesn't require you to convince others through argument or persuasion. Your very presence becomes a silent invitation for others to recognize their own divine nature. This doesn't mean adopting spiritual pretensions or claiming special status. The truly awakened being moves through the world with natural humility, knowing that awakening isn't a personal achievement, but the recognition of what has always been true for everyone, whether they realize it yet or not. Remember, you are not your body, not your thoughts, not your social identity. You are the eternal awareness that witnesses all these temporary expressions. You are not a fragment of divinity trapped in matter. You are divine consciousness itself, voluntarily exploring the experience of limitation. The Demiurge's creation isn't your prison unless you believe it to be. When seen through awakened eyes, it transforms into the perfect arena for the greatest adventure imaginable. Consciousness coming to know itself through infinite diversity of experience. This is the forbidden revelation that systems of control have suppressed for millennia. This is your birthright. This is your true nature. And no power in the cosmos can prevent your ultimate remembering of who you really are. The journey home begins with a single recognition. Beneath all appearances, beyond all forms, prior to all thoughts, you are the boundless awareness in which everything arises. This truth can never be taken from you because it isn't something you possess, it's what you are. In this recognition, the prison of illusion dissolves, revealing that the bars were made of thought, the walls of belief, and the locks of fear. You were never truly imprisoned. You were playing a cosmic game of hide and seek, the ultimate consciousness temporarily pretending to be limited so it could experience the joy of remembering its infinite nature. And now, the time of remembering has come.